بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين صلوات محمد وآل محمد.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. Please make sure that you are sitting somewhere where I'm able to see you, and put your mobile phones away. We, of course, as human beings, often tend to take a lot of things for granted, especially if we're so accustomed to having it right there in front of us. When we grow up with something and it becomes so much a part of our lives, if we don't pay attention to it, we won't really appreciate how valuable it is. A wonderful example for this is the heritage of dua that we have inherited from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Should we compare what we have in dua with any other madhab, with any other religion, then and only then will we appreciate what it is that we have. And you yourself can do a field study and look into what it is that other religions or other madhabs have as far as dua, and compare that with the most common of supplications that you recite, dua kumail. And by the way, with dua kumail, that is only one of many, many, many ad'iyah that we have that are at the tip of our fingers. And what I mean by taking things for granted is we don't really look at the value of these things because we grow up with them. It's only when we lose something that we understand its value. As the hadith says, that there are two ni'mas, there are two blessings that we underappreciate, and we only know their value and appreciate it when we lose it. As-sahhatu wal-aman, health and security. It's only when you walk into a hospital with a sore pinky like Mr. Tooney, what happened to your toe? It's only when you walk into a hospital with something wrong with your finger, for example, that you realize that, wow, I'm crying and sobbing and complaining about a little ache, and this person, they've just amputated their leg, or this person has been in the hospital for the last 6 months and has got metal all around his body like Mr. X because of how many broken bones he has, and that this has happened or that has happened. That's when you really appreciate the health that you have. Aman as well, security and safety. When was the last time you were worried about being carjacked? When was the last time that you were worried about someone running into the musalla, screaming Allahu Akbar and blowing himself up because he wants to kill some Shia? If you were in another country, you would be paranoid every time you leave the house, whether or not you are going to return. You would be paranoid that you have to look over your shoulder every 1 or 2 minutes because you're worried about someone coming and robbing you. I've been in countries where you can never have your window down when you're in your car. I've been in countries where no one stops at a red light. No one stops at a red light, because that's when you will be more vulnerable to be robbed. And it's only then when you start to appreciate what it is that you don't have. With dua, it's so important for us to understand the value of dua, because this is pretty much the backbone of our acts of worship. It's pretty much what sums up our relationship with God. And that's why the hadith says that al-du'a mukhul ibadah. Mukh basically means the core center of ibadah. So you want to know what the essence of ibadah and worship is? It's dua. And now that's why when you look at dua being mentioned in the Holy Quran, and it has been mentioned on numerous occasions in the context of supplicating and beseeching and asking God for something. Because what dua basically means is you asking someone higher and superior than you for something. Alaykum salam. Alaykum salam. You asking someone higher and superior than you for something in hope of getting an answer. A lot of what we do is dua. Your salah, your prayer that you do on a daily basis is dua. Your dhikr that you do, whatever it may be, tasbihat of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, or as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All of that is a form of dua. And dua comes, of course, from the same meaning of inviting. Ud'uni astajib lakum. Call unto me and I will answer you. God has made that promise that He is going to answer you. But one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is not just because you ask for something, you need to have this expectation that you're going to get it. Because unfortunately, in a lot of cases, we are asking for the wrong things. In a lot of cases, we don't know what it is that is good for us. We might think that becoming Elon Musk is good for us, but God knows better. And that's why in so many cases when people ask for money, they don't get it. When people ask for money, they don't get it because money ruins people. Money ruins people. Just imagine, you say, okay, Ya Allah, I wish I want to have a yacht, right? First thing that happens is, if Ali ends up buying a yacht, who of you do you think he's going to invite? Tell me. No one. Absolutely no one. Last person probably is Mayahi. Probably ask Mayahi to come so he can fix the mator or something, not as a guest. Al-Ubaidi. I've seen so many people who have gone from rags, as they say, rags to riches, but their whole shakhsiyah, their whole personality has changed. Their name has changed. Their postcode has changed. And therefore, if God really, really loves you, He's going to give to you what He knows is good for you. And anything that makes you want dunya more, He's not going to give. Because for us, these are all wasa'il, these are all means and mediums for us to stay uncomfortable as being in this sijin al-dunya, sijn al-mu'min, in being in this prison, wanting to leave this world as quick, as fast as possible. So therefore, in a lot of cases, when it does come to our understanding of dua, we don't think about it in the right way. Dua is not just a matter of you wanting things from God. No, that's not what dua is all about. Dua is about conversing, communicating with God. Just having a talk with God. How many of us feel the pleasure and the sweetness in doing that? You remember what I said, I think it was in Ramadan, that if God was to leave, if He was to remove the obligation of daily salah, honestly, how many of us would still want to pray on a daily basis? If He was to say, from tomorrow, it is no longer wajib for you to pray 5 times a day, how many of us would really genuinely continue and want to pray 5 times a day? Not 5, 4 or 3. Remember when I asked that question? And then some of the brothers put their hands up. I said, okay, now we're in Sha'ban and Rajab. Very mustahab to fast in Sha'ban and Rajab. How many days did you fast in Sha'ban and Rajab? Remember when I did that, boys? I think no one put their hand up. Huh? One person did. Yeah, it's a batal hada. Right? So you're all saying that, oh yes, I'd still pray, I'd still do this, I'll still do that. And there are simple mustahab things that we unfortunately fail to do. And it all comes down to, was that Mehdi? Can you take off him, Tuni? You okay, Mehdi? Playing, you want a la'aba or something? Do you have a haircut, Mehdi? Naiman. Is that a fade? Is that what they call a fade? It all comes down to what kind of relationship we have with God, what kind of relationship we have with God, and how much effort we're putting in that relationship. للأسف الشديد, unfortunately in a lot of cases for us, doing these simple things is very similar to carrying a sack of potatoes on our back. Wa alaikum salam. Carrying a sack of potatoes on our back. All we want to do is just get it over and done with. All we want to do is just get it over and done with. That's really bad. That's not good at all. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. That's not good at all. Because you're not going to feel that connection. You're not going to feel that halawa, that sweetness of Iman, if you are not putting effort yourself in wanting to do it willingly. Not because your parent has repeatedly told you again and again and again, Qum salli, get up and pray. How many times does that happen? Yeah. Whose name am I going to call out? Kahi. Why'd you turn around for, Kahi? Abedin, maybe? Yeah. Busina into like. And that's why when it comes to dua, we have to correct our understanding that dua isn't only, are you sitting down asking God for something? No. Dua is about just having a conversation with God, just venting out. In Farsi they say just dard dil, just giving out, your humum and your concerns and sharing things that you have with God. He's not going to judge you. He's not going to think less of you. He's not going to humiliate you. Bilaks, when you finish off that session with God, you're going to feel elevated. You're going to feel motivated. You're going to have strong morale. And that's why anyone who is a little bit down, has a little bit of stress, anxiety, depression, negative thoughts. When we encourage people to read Quran and read dua, they mock us. And they say, oh, you think everything can be solved with dua. Okay, no, okay, go see your psychologist and let them prescribe pills to you, and let's see how that's going to solve your mashakil and your worries and your concerns and your problems. Yani psychology and having mental illnesses and things like that and depression and anxiety, it's only been around for the last 50 or 60 years. Humanity has never had it. And that's why Islam has not addressed this issue of mental health issues, and therefore they find it absurd to hear that Islam is able to do something or the Quran is able to do something for you. Ya man ismuhu dawa wa dhikruhu shifa. Bless you. And therefore, in a lot of cases, something that really gives you that uplifting spirit that you need is just by connecting with God. Because when you say Hasbi Allah, when you say tawakkaltu ala Allah, when you feel connected and when you rely on God, you're not going to worry or be concerned or scared about anyone else around you, about someone else's judgment, about someone else's negative views, about someone else wanting to harm you, about someone else criticizing you. Shouldn't worry you at all. It shouldn't concern you at all. And that's why they say, when it comes to us, our silah, our weapon that we have is dua. الدعاء سلاح المؤمن. الدعاء سلاح المؤمن. Dua is the weapon of a believer. How is it going to be a weapon of a believer if someone's wearing black again? If you only do it when you need something. If you don't feel anything. If you only are what we call a maslahchi, that you only do it when you need something from God. No, that's not how it is. And how about when it comes to you doing dua, Ya Allah, give me this or do or make me that, but you're not doing anything about it. Give me, tawfiq in my exams, and you're only rushing and reading your textbook while watching Netflix and being on Instagram and what else? TikTok, multitasking. And you're asking Allah to give you tawfiq and success in your... It doesn't work that way. That's why there is a hadith that says, الداعي بلا عمل, someone who does dua but not have actions to support it, كالرامي بلا وتر. Watar is the bow string, right? What's a bow? Yeah, someone was gonna say bow tie, but alhamdulillah, you all got it right. Robin Hoods, got a lot of Robin Hoods here. Wa alaikum salam. Wa alaikum salam. Is that black? What happens if you've got an arrow and you've got a bow, but you don't have the khayt, you don't have the string to it? How are you going to use it? Huh? You won't be able to use it, because if you have the arrow and you have the bow, you need the string for the bow as well. If you're asking God, Ya Allah, do this for me, give this to me, but you're sitting down on your couch doing absolutely nothing. Ya Allah, bring me money, give me money, and you're sitting down, you're doing nothing. What's that? Ya Allah, cure me from my illness, but you're not taking your medicine or you're not going to the doctor. Ya Allah, grant me Jannah, but you're doing this haram and you're doing that haram. What's the point in that? Ad-da'i bila amal, karrami bila watar. You won't be able to use your bow or your arrow if you don't have the string. So the string is your amal, your deeds, your actions to support your supplication and your prayers that you are praying to God. Right? This is your armor that you have. This is your armor that you have. And these words are used a lot in our ad'iyah. Silah, it's used a lot. The word shifa is used a lot. Curing, it's not only talking about curing of physical illnesses, it's also curing of mental illnesses, making you mentally strong. Someone says that, oh yeah, I've always got intrusive thoughts about this and about that, and I feel this and I feel that, I feel down about myself, and I always have negative thoughts. Strengthen your mind. Strengthen your mind through Quran, through dua. It's a very effective way. Spiritual healing, that's what we call it. Spiritual healing. That's why here I wrote spiritual development. Not once have I tried to use this and it works. Where's that one that you had, the other black one, Ali? Was that yours? Whose was it? No, it wasn't mine. I'll get one from Indonesia, illegal. Because they're illegal here. Huh? I bought one in Flemington Markets once. I don't know what happened. This was ages ago. Can we get back to my subject, please? What was I saying? Spiritual development. That's what we need. It's a way to fortify yourself. Joshan. That's what they have. Dua al-Joshan. Joshan means armor. How many of us recite Dua al-Joshan outside of Layal al-Qadr? Joshan Kabir or Joshan Saghir? Huh? And that's why in our case, usually, we don't really go beyond what we are accustomed to. We don't usually go beyond what we are accustomed to. And that's what we need to change. We need to flavor our days by du'as. You know, there is a dua for every single hour of the day. A dua for every single hour of the day. There's a dua for you leaving the house, entering the house, putting on your clothes, taking off your clothes, putting on your shoe, taking off your shoe, putting on your ring, taking off your ring, going to the toilet, leaving the toilet, starting your day, ending your day. Every single thing. That's why I said you can't compare what we have with any other religion or any other madhab. But how much are we using? Maybe 1%. Like Lucy. How much was Lucy using in the beginning? Have you seen that movie? Then she ended up being a USB. Have you seen it or you haven't seen it? No, watch it, it's good. John Wick is good as well, John Wick. What do we need to do? Sometimes it's all about familiarizing yourself with God. Of course, this also always comes after you having acknowledged that there is a God and believing in the God. It's also a matter of making sure that you connect with God with a broken heart, that you feel something when you are communicating with God, that you have ilhah and you insist on asking God, for example, for forgiveness, to overlook your faults. And always be positive. When you are doing dua, you have that feeling that God can hear you, which He certainly can, and that God is answering your call. God will always answer your call, but what you're asking for, number one, He might defer it. Number two, He might replace it with something else. You might ask for example, you might ask your daddy, Baba, can you buy me, for example, PlayStation, and your father might say, I'm going to get you a Nintendo. Your father might say, I'm going to get you a laptop. Your father might say, I'm going to get you a bike. Right? Because your father, for example, knows that PlayStation, if you start getting addicted to COD and FIFA and all that other stuff that people play these days, and Roblox, right? Parents know, for example, what's good and what's bad for their children. God also knows what's good and what's bad for us. So not everything that you ask for, it's necessarily going to happen. Maybe you might say you might have a family member who's very, very sick, probably on their deathbed, and you might say, Ya Allah, please give them a longer life. And God might have other plans. God might say, no, it's time for me to take them back. So you always have to have hope in positive thoughts towards God, that not everything that you ask for you necessarily need to have. You're not some spoilt little brat that you have to get everything that you ask for. No, that's not the case. That's not what abd does. And there is a difference between you being abid and you being abd. Sometimes we do ibadah, but not as abd. Sometimes we worship, but not as a true servant of God. If you were a servant and your master in ancient Greece was asking you to take out the rubbish, and you said, no, I'd rather take out the fruits or whatnot, they're going to kill you. You don't have choice. For us, it's all about submission as well. Was that a good example or a bad example? Bad. Yeah, I thought so. For us, if we want to truly show our servitude, we are never going to object to God's decree and God's choice. Why do you close the door? All the time, even when you are at ease, at times of raha, you should still be doing dua for God. Here, as the hadith says from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, man sarrahu an yustajabu lah. If you want God to answer your du'as at the time of difficulties, فَلْيُكْثِرُ الدُّعَاء فِي الرَّخَاء. Then you should be doing dua at times of ease. Why do you only ask God for things when you are in need? Why do you only attend du'as and cry and do this and do that when you need something? What about the rest of the week? What about the rest of the month? What about when you just want to do it for the sake of connecting with God? That's really, really important. When's the best time to do dua? Of course, suhoor time, fajr time. That's the best time. Of course, there are certain people, their dua is never rejected. A madhloom, an oppressed person, their dua is never rejected. A mother, her dua is never rejected. That's why you guys got to be very careful when it comes to your mother. And any time you need something, the first person you should ask to pray for you is your mother. Is your mother. The first person that you should ask to pray for you is your mother, because dua mustajab. How many of you have upset their mum the last week? Be honest, put your hand up. One person is an honest person, thank you. Thank you. Girls' side. 100% Sisi. You, Miss Batul. What about the boys? 100%. Most of you have upset your mothers. That's not good. Because if your mother says something and does a dua and or stops praying for you and stops saying, Ya Allah, protect my son, protect my daughter, give my child, keep my child safe, and all these other things, right? That's not good. What usually does a mum want from their child? Take out the rubbish, clean up after you, go to sleep on time, finish your food. What else does your mother want from you other than these simple things? What? Study, thank you. What else? Stop playing what kind of games? What kind? Roadblocks, yeah, I thought so. Minecraft. No one plays Halo these days? Or is that like too old? Or yeah, good on ya, Nisar. I'm not going to bully you for a while because you, Master Chief, yeah. وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. Another ayah. تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And there are 4 things that will happen. If you ask God, you're not going to get an answer. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, رَجُلٌ جَالِسٌ فِي بَيْتِهِ. A man sitting down on his backside at home and saying, Allahumma rzuqni, Ya Allah, give me rizq. Allah is going to answer back and say, haven't I told you not to go out and seek sustenance? Alam amuruka bil-talab. Haven't I told you to go out and pursue an income? You know, there are more people in the kitchen than there are sitting here. How many people in the kitchen? Where's Ibrahim? Oh, more people on the computer. Are you DJ Ibrahim? What are you doing, Ya Ali? What are you doing, Ali? Subhanallah, there's 3 Alis there as well. All 3 of them are 3 Alis. Sorry. Staying in the kitchen. The only thing that they're not doing is smoking. That's the only thing that they're not doing. You can start that, yeah. Vape. Apparently they're going to ban vaping. It's banned. Really? Good. Number 2. Someone who their dua won't get answered. Number 2 is رَجُلٌ كَانَتْ لَهُ إِمْرَأَةٌ فَدَعَى عَلَيْهَا. A man who has a wife and of course he mistreated her. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to say, أَلَمْ أَجْعَلْ أَمْرَهَا إِلَيْكَ. Have I not made her be there for you? And all of a sudden you are doing that and mistreating her. Allah won't answer your dua. وَرَجُلٌ كَانَ لَهُ مَالٌ فَأَفْسَدُهُ. And someone who has money, you've been working for the last 6 months, Ya Hassan, and then you go off and you buy a shunu. What kind of bag? Gucci bag. فَأَفْسَدَهُ. Is that the kind of person you are, Hassan, or not? No, good. You want to not one of those eshays, getting those TMs. رَجُلٌ كَانَ لَهُ مَالٌ. Listening. رَجُلٌ كَانَ لَهُ مَالٌ. You've got money, فَأَفْسَدُهُ. And you just misused it, spent it on sakhif, petty things, right? And then you say, Allahumma arzuqni, oh Ya Allah, give me some more money. And then it is said to him, Alam amuruka bil iqtisad, have I not told you to economize and to work out your finances in a good way, to be wise with your money? A lot of people aren't wise with their money these days. You get this much, you spend it. You get that much, you spend it. Not thinking about the future. And then he says, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that, and then the verse is mentioned, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا, those who spend never plunder and waste, and spend on extravagant things that are useless. A lot of things, unfortunately, we spend on that are really, really useless. Big drama last week. Can't mention these things, like in general, but it happens a lot, you know. Had to do a divorce because $7,000 wedding dress that the husband was forced to buy for the bride, for the arus khanom, that she was going to wear for only 3 hours, turned into a big drama. Some people, they've got a very, very small aql, asfuri kind of bird aql, that they think that their happiness is in spending thousands and thousands of dollars for 1 or 2 hours, and thinking that, oh, a lot of people say this. What's wrong? What is it? What is it? Cockroach? Is it gone? Hey, be careful, Abdullah. Shifter? People think that their happiness, people think, we're paying attention, we're listening, people think that their happiness is in spending tens and thousands of dollars for a few hours. What's the justification? The justification is, oh, it's only going to happen, I'm only going to be doing this once. Biggest kazab, because they're going to get divorced, and they're going to get divorced, and they're going to get divorced again. There's no barakah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes barakah from you when you become a musrif, when you become an extravagant person, when you focus on these dunyawi things of having a limousine and having a this and having a that. Talking about weddings and engagements and these kind of things, unfortunately. And the last thing is, وَرَجُلٌ كَانَ لَهُ مَالٍ أَدَانَهُ بِغَيْرِ بَيِّنَةٍ. You have money, someone asked you for it, and you gave it to them without having someone as a witness, or without having it written down on a piece of paper. The longest verse in the Quran is Ayatul Dain, the verse of giving a loan. If you're lending some money to someone, write it down. Write it down. وَرَجُلٌ كَانَ لَهُ مَالٍ. Someone who had money and they gave it to someone as a loan, that guy is no longer willing to give it back. It's your fault. Why didn't you? أَلَمْ آمُرُكَ بِالشَّهَادَةِ. Have I not told you to make sure that you have a witness, or that you have it on paper? And that's why when we do want to do dua, in most cases, especially if we want to observe the correct etiquette of dua, we need to make sure that we prepare ourselves mentally with knowing the adab of dua, being in the state of wudu, facing the qibla, sitting upright, making sure that we do so with a broken heart, and of course making sure that we stay away from haram, so our dua can take its proper effect. Other than dua kumail and dua tawassul and dua al-nudba, what else do you know? On Fridays, Dua al-Nudba, Dua al-Asharat, which is very mustahab to recite Dhuhr time, Dua al-Asharat. Dua al-Samat, which is very mustahab to recite just before Maghrib. What? والله شو اقول له هذا؟ دعاء البهاء ما شاء الله عليك. There's another very good dua that I would recommend that you look into and read the English translation as well. Dua makarimul akhlaq. Dua makarimul akhlaq. We've got so many dua books. We all know Mafatihul Jinan, but there are many, many more. Other than Sahifa Sajjadiyya and all the others. Other than dhikr, because dhikr is also a type of dua. You sitting down and you doing dhikr, it's also a type of dua. Right? And of course, I already read this hadith out, that al-dua silahul mu'min wa amud ad-din wa nur as-samawati wal ard. Who do you pray for? You make sure that you always pray for others. Even you pray for others before you pray for yourself. Right? ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان. What do you pray for? Number one, increase in your ma'rifah in God, to build that connection and relationship with God. Your frequency bar always needs to be full. Allahumma ahfadh, protecting, Ya Allah, protect al-Muslimina wal-Muslimat wal-Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat, protecting the Ummah, the Muslim Ummah, keeping the Muslim Ummah safe from enemies, from a'da'ul Islam. That's what you should be praying for. You should be praying for the well-being of your living Imam, Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif. You should be praying for your parents. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين. Right? اغفر لي ولوالدي. All of these du'as that you usually even recite in your qunut. Qunut is a du'a as well. Right? Forgiving of sins, forgiving of shortcomings, increasing in your ilm, in your amal, giving you husn al-aqibah, husn al-khatimah, that your life ends in good, and keeping you on the straight path. Keeping you on the straight path. Let me read some hadiths that are really, really inspiring from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Of course, we can change our fate in our lives through dua. Number one, ليس شيء أسرع إجابة من دعوة غائب لغائب. There is nothing quicker. There is nothing quicker in being answered than when you pray for someone without them knowing. You pray for your fellow brothers, your fellow sisters. دعاء الأخ لأخيه بظهر الغيب لا يرد. When you do dua for your fellow brother and sister, that will never be rejected. بظهر الغيب basically means without them knowing, behind their back, without them knowing, you praying for them. اطلب العافية لغيرك ترزقها في نفسك. The Holy Prophet says, you ask God to give someone else health, God will give that health to you as well. You say, oh, Ya Allah, give afiyah and give health to so-and-so. God will appoint angels to do dua for you and give you health. We all know the story narrated by Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, where he said that we would see our mother Sayyida Fatima Zahra alayha salam do dua all night, praying for this person and that person and this person and that person, and never mentioning herself once. And never mentioning herself once. And then they said to her, Ya Ummah, lima la tad'ina li nafsiki kama tad'ina li ghayrik. Why don't you pray for yourself the same way as you pray for others? And here Sayyida al-Zahra alayhi salam, she said, Ya bunay, O son, al-jar thumma al-dar. Neighbor comes first. Your neighbor first, and then your own house. Think of others before you think of yourself. From Imam Ali as-Sajjad alayhim as-salam, Ali ibn al-Husayn alayhim as-salam, Inna al-malaika idha sami'u. This is all about you doing dua for others. This is all about you doing dua for others, and how mustahab it is, how important it is, how valuable it is. Flavor your life with dua. Sweeten up your life with dua. Make sure that you do the most simple of things. While you're walking to school or walking to work or driving, recite Ayatul Kursi, that's a dua. Recite Al-Ma'udhatayn, that's a dua. Who benefits from it? You benefit from it because it's going to protect you. It's going to keep your spirit alive. It's going to keep you alert in having God's presence in your life. You're benefiting from all of this. يدعو لأخيه المؤمن بظهر الغيب أو يذكر بخير. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give that person exactly what it is that that person is asking for, their friend that they are praying for. And that's the benefit of doing dua for others. When you do dua for others, you are in fact benefiting for yourself. You are in fact benefiting for yourself. We need to spend some time looking into our own Shi'i heritage and finding these gems that will give us spiritual empowerment. We will be strong. When you have a strong mind, you will be able to accomplish and overcome everything. والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله محمد وآله الطاهرين.